Brandberg, what attracted me to it is that it's a big mountain and it's a multi-day hike. And speaking about sha, kuna kusha hapa. So it's what like hikers usually do. You carry wet wipes. So wet wipes is what you use to freshen yourself. It's called the Gondwana Village Trail. During this hike, we spotted this like long black snake. I don't know if it was like a black mamba or anything, but Wamaida who spotted it just started running, didn't even say anything. And then after she was safe far away, she was like, snake, snake. Okay, welcome everyone to today's happy hour event. My name is Kiprono, letting the host. Happy Hour is a BAADA Summit podcast event. We invite hikers, mountaineers, climbers to come and share stories of their adventures. So today we have 3 presenters, and the theme of today is Africa, hiking adventures in Africa. I'll start the presentation by talking about hiking in Namibia, and then Maggie will come and talk about hiking in Ethiopia, and finally, Kate will talk about hiking in Mauritius. So, karibuni sana, all of you, and if you're new here, welcome. I see many new faces, and so let's start with. So let's start. Okay. How is everyone doing? Good. So today I will talk about hiking in Namibia, Brandberg Mountain and other trails. So Brandberg Mountain is the highest mountain in Namibia. I'll mainly focus on that. So, I forgot to introduce my co-host today. I have a co-host today. So just stand up. So Mathan is my co-host. So Mathan will get to ask me, let's say, questions like as I'm presenting. And then after my presentation, there'll be a Q&A. And then you can get to ask your questions like the crowd. So that's Mathan, my co-host.
Yeah, that's me. If you have questions, please don't raise your hand. You can call me, or you can jot down your questions, and then we will ask Kip or any of the other presenters as they do their presentations. All right? All right.
So.
Asante Kip. Ulikuwa umesahau?
So today I'll talk about 4 destinations in Namibia. So this is like the map of Namibia. The green dot in the middle, just below where Namibia is written, that's Windhoek, or as the locals say, Windhoek. And then Brandberg Mountain is like northwest. And then I'll talk about Fish River Canyon, Big Daddy Dune, that's sand dune in the Namib Desert. And I'll talk about Sandwich Harbour, that's where the desert meets the ocean. So when you get to Namibia, to move around, it's necessary to rent a car. You can't because every location is quite remote. So this was the first time that I went to Namibia, and when looking for a rental company, it's the first time I hired a car in a foreign country. So with my research, I found that Namibia To Go is such an amazing company. I've used them twice. Excellent service, good cars. So I just thought to plug them here. So for the first time I went to Namibia. It was like a solo trip. So I just got this Suzuki Jimny. It's about 1,535 Namibian dollars. That's 90 USD. And the process to get it's online. You don't have to talk to anyone. You just go to the website, choose the car that you want, and then put your details, and then that's it. You pay, and then that's it. And then I remember when I went to collect the car, I was expecting them to interrogate me, where am I going and everything. So just gave me the car keys, just showed me all the important details that I needed to know, And then that was it. So I think that's like a fantastic like plug. Because other car rental companies, maybe they would ask you for a security deposit, something like $2,000. But for them, you just pay for the daily rate, and then that's fine. So starting with Brandberg Mountain, it's Namibia's highest mountain. The local name is Daureb. Daureb is Damara language. It means burning mountain. And this mountain, it's a big mountain. It's about like 25 kilometers wide. And it's a multi-day hike. Some people do it between 2 to 4 days. I chose to do it in 2 days. The highest peak is called Königstein, and that's a German word that means Kingstone. And then it's famous for rock paintings. There are over 50,000 rock paintings in 900 sites, and they're like 5,000 years old. So before actually climbing the mountain, you have to get a permit. It's not as easy as just going to Mount Kenya. You could just decide to go to Mount Kenya tomorrow. But this one is like a whole process. First, you have to send an email to the Namibian Heritage Council. And then after you request like your hiking dates, you give the details. They'll give you the details to pay for the permit. It's about 150 USD. That also includes the guide cost. And the payments by bank transfer. So you also include like the bank charges. So it can be quite expensive. And the permit issued includes a guide contact. So once you email them, it's like a long back and forth process. So you have to send them an email, and then I found it like super slow. They'll reply like 4 days later, and then reply immediately about the payment details. They reply again like 4 days later. So it's quite a slow process. And then the permit is only valid for the requested days. So if you want to go the 6th of August to 10th of August, you can only go for those days. So if you miss your flight or anything, you have to like redo the permit process again. And the whole process is quite slow. It took like a month of this back and forth to actually get the permit. So if you want to do this mountain, you have to give yourself like some good time, at least a month before your trip, so that you get the permit. And then once...
Hiring the car is easier than getting the hiking permit.
Correct. It's such a long process. Like the back and forth emails, then you're talking to different people. But once you get the permit, then with the guide contact, then you're able to contact the guide. And then from that, you can ask for like a porter if you want a porter to climb the mountain. So yeah. And it's not as easy, like I can't, like the guide that I used, I can't give you his contact because it has to be like assigned by the National Heritage Council. So after getting the permit, I flew to Windhoek and got the car. And then the first day I drove to Uis. Uis is the last town before you get to the mountain. So the distance for driving is about like 330 kilometers, and it took like around like 5 hours. And since it was like my first time being there, I was very amazed by like the scenery and everything. It's quite an empty country. So to have like a perspective about Namibia, so like Namibia versus Kenya. Namibia is, I think, like 1.5 times bigger than Kenya, but only has 3 million people, versus Kenya having like, I think, over 50 million, something like that. So yeah, so I was just enjoying the scenery over here. Then I just stopped to just take pictures of everything because it's like empty land. So it's quite nice. Then I got to Uis. I stayed at this Brandberg rest camp. It's a hotel. It's a basic hotel there. It was about $60 for bed and breakfast. And there are a number of hotels in Uis.
Before you go on, How is the road? We've seen a picture of like purely Maram road. Is that the road 330 kilometers?
So I'd say, I think the first 100 was like tarmac, and then those 50 kilometers like Maram like this, and then I'd say the last 100 was all Maram. Yeah. But still, like in this Maram, it's like really good. You can do like 80, 100 in those roads. It's very good roads. Yeah. Actually, driving in Namibia is amazing compared to our chaos of Kenya. When you go and drive there, it's such a good experience. So I decided to book this hotel because they have like a transfer service from the hotel to the mountain. Because I didn't want to use like my rental car to go to the mountain. Because the mountain, they don't have like a gate like the way we have in Mount Kenya, where you can park your car and it's safe. So there you just park it at the starting point and just leave it there. So I didn't want to risk leaving this rental car and then something happened to it. So I asked the hotel if they could organize transport to the mountain. That's why I chose this hotel. So for Brandberg, this is day one after we were dropped at the starting point. The guy in the middle is my guide. He's called Chris Lee. And the guy on the right is my porter. He's called Samuel. So that was just us. And that was like around 6:40 in the morning. That's when we began our hike. So this is day one of a 2-day hike. And then for you to picture how the terrain is, it's very rocky. So this is like how the terrain is, and it's very steep. So I consider Brandberg to be like it's a hard mountain to climb. So it's rocky, and then the tree on the right, that's the national tree of Namibia. It's called a quiver tree. So you'll see this everywhere and all over Namibia. And then as you're walking along the trail, you'll get to see some of the rock paintings. And this is one of them. So this picture is, I don't know if you can see it properly. This picture is, they're like two humans chasing an animal. And this kind of painting is called a monochrome painting. So I think there's monochrome and polychrome. Polychrome, I think, different colors. So such painting, which could be like 5,000 years old. So the paint is made from blood, egg yolk, red ochre stone, and animal fat. So I guess you just mix all of them and then have the paint, and then it is this. So along the trail, the guide will show you like different rock paintings along on the trail, which is quite cool. And then we got to giraffe camp around 10 a.m. So it's called giraffe camp based on the rock painting, like as you see on the rock. And that's where we pitched our tents before continuing the hike. I wanted to camp like on the very first camp and then continue to the summit and back to this camp, so the next day I'd descend like very early. So we pitched our tents, and then I remember in the morning it was quite chilly, and then this time now it was like super hot. And then going towards the peak, this was like the only source of water that I saw on the trails. So I did this hike, I didn't mention earlier, I did this in October 2025. And October is like a shoulder month before summer. And during that year, it was very dry. There was like barely any rain. So before the start of the hike, we actually bought like 15 liters of water for like 3 people, because there's like a lack of water on the mountain at that time. And then we passed this place. It's like a dry river, and then I was like the only water. It's like a small pond. And my guide and porter, they actually drank this water, and it was like fine for them, but they didn't like recommend me drinking or anything. And then in the water you could hear like frogs and sea, but anyway, they were fine with the water. So continuing towards the summit, the peak there in the middle is the summit. And from the time that I took this photo to the summit, it took like 1 hour. It kind of looks close, but it's quite steep now to reach the summit. And it's quite a long hike. So we got to the peak, Koningstein, around 3:40. So if you remember, we started the hike at 6:40, summited at 3:40 p.m. So it's like a 9-hour hike to the top. So it's quite tough. And the last bit, just to get to the top, it's scrambling. So you're going over boulders and everything. So it's quite tricky. So yeah, that's me at the top. And then at the summit, there's this like metal container that has this summit book. So you could get to like leave a comment, whatever that you like. So, and then you write the date. So that was 11th of October, 2025. Then my name, where I'm from, and then now the remarks. I just wrote like beautiful hike and tough. Cha muhimu ni summit. And then asante sana to Chrisley and Samuel. So this, and then I remember when I got here, I only had like 500 ml of water. I underestimated the heat of Namibia because I thought, oh, it's not summer, maybe it'll be manageable, but it was quite hot. And I was worried about my water. I thought maybe I'd even drink that pond water.
How did you shower?
This is day one.
Yeah. This is day one?
Yeah.
Oh, you go to the summit on day one?
Yeah, the summit day one.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So we started at 6:40.
Okay.
AM submitted at 3:40.
Same after you do day two, you'll tell us the shower situation.
So, and then that was the three of us at before we descended. And if you can notice, we were doing this like sign. This is not a gang sign. Okay, if you look close, this is like the map of Namibia. So if you were to go to Google Maps and then look at it, it's like the map of Namibia. So yeah, that was showed by Samuel over there in the middle. So we got back to camp around 9 p.m. It was like a slow descent. And then we had a braai, had some boers and some beef skewers with veg. We bought this from the supermarket just before we went to start the hike. And then we chilled by the fire. Then we had like other foods like tuna, cheese and everything. So it's a really nice evening. And speaking about shower, kuna kushower hapa. So it's what like hikers usually do, you carry wet wipes. So wet wipes is what you use to freshen yourself. And it was a 2-day hike, so you can like manage for the time. So this was like the morning view. This was around 6:30 a.m., I think. And then you could see just like vast bare land. Like it's literally in the middle of nowhere. And at that time, we were the only 3 people on the mountain. So I think this is like one of the most remote places I've hiked. Because I'm like, if something happens, how do you get help and everything? But anyway, I'm glad we went up and down fine. And then the sunrise was really nice to look at. And then on the right, you could kind of see on the horizon like the Atlantic Ocean. So it's like on the right. So after having tea, morning breakfast, we descended down this rocky part. And my guide told me, like, if it rains, this mountain, it's not recommended to climb. It's very dangerous when it rains. It can get very slippery, especially here. Because you might not look at it like in this picture, but it's very steep going down. So that was the hike, Brandberg Mountain. A few hiking stats. The route that we hiked is Gassep Gorge. It took about 2 days. Total distance was 30 kilometers and 2,175 meters elevation gain. And the difficulty, I categorize it to be strenuous. It's quite a strenuous hike. And if I was to recommend someone here doing, it's better to do it as a 3-day hike rather than 2 days. 2 days, that was tough, but it's manageable. Yeah. So some of the costs of climbing Brandberg Mountain. Permit and guide was like 150 USD. Porter was 100. Food and water, so we bought like 15 liters of water. The meat that we bought, cheese, snacks, even we had sodas, cost like 60. And the cost for my Jimny was 270, fuel 80. The mountain transfers was slightly expensive, that was 200, but that's optional. If you have your car and you want to risk parking it in the open, it's fine. And when people park their own cars, they actually hire a local from a village, and the local has to camp where the car is for the days now you're on the mountain. And then now my hotel was 60, so total in USD is 920. So like, why I chose Brandberg, like in Africa, I've done most of the big mountains. Big mountains, I mean like multi-day. So like Kilimanjaro, a multi-day hike where you're camping, Mount Kenya, Rwenzori, Mount Cameroon, Toubkal. So Brandberg, what attracted me to it is that it's a big mountain and it's a multi-day hike. And the time that I did this hike, it was October. So it's like my birthday month. So I wanted to go check out Namibia because I didn't think I'd go to Namibia so soon. I just thought Namibia was only for sightseeing. But it's also a nice destination for hiking. So I'll continue on to other trails. So this is from my second trip to Namibia. So my first trip was last year, October 2025. So the second trip was just 2 months ago in June. And the plan was to do the Fish River Canyon. Now, Fish River Canyon is the largest canyon in Africa. It's second largest in the world behind Grand Canyon. And the hiking trail there is about 70 kilometers. And it's a 4 to 6 day hike. Self-guided, self-supported. You cook your own food. So it's a nice wilderness hike. And actually, Fish River Canyon is, I think, the most iconic hike in Namibia. It's very popular in Namibia. And to even get a permit, you have to book like a year in advance. So for this hike, I remember we booked December of 2025. And when we traveled June, our hike was canceled on the day of the hike. Like we had prepared, we had all our bag, we had all our food. We were 4 Kenyans that were going to do this hike. And it was canceled because of the trail was flooded. So the pictures here was the day of our hike. That was the 21st of June. So 2 days before this day, it rained heavily. It rained so much that the dams upstream were filled to overcapacity, and the people managing the dams had to release water, and the water released to the river flooded the entire canyon. There were like 96 hikers in the canyon who they were all safely evacuated. But so now since the canyon was flooded, now our hike was cancelled, and we only got to know about it on the day of the hike. We already traveled and we were already there. So yeah, so hopefully maybe next year I'll get to do it and talk about it. So after our cancelled Fish River hike, we had time to go sightseeing. So we did this sand dune. It's called Big Daddy Dune. So Big Daddy Dune, it's a proper hike. So like the total hiking distance is 6 kilometers. It took around 3 hours, and the elevation gain is 300 meters. So why I was attracted to this sand dune, it's the highest sand dune by elevation in Namibia. So the summit is around 815 meters. And Big Daddy Dune is in the Sossusvlei area, so you've probably heard of Deadvlei. So from the summit of Big Daddy Dune, you descend, so we hiked up a different route and now descended down towards Deadvlei. And it's quite a nice, it's a steep descent, like very steep, and people opt to go around if you have like height phobias. But I think it's safe to go because now as you're walking, you sink into the sand, and it's actually really fun to go down like the sand dune. Because imagine going down a sand dune for like 300 meters, so it's like that steep. And then we got down to Deadvlei. This is a very popular tourist attraction. And these trees are said to be like over 1,000 years old. And the saying is that there used to be a river that was cut off by the sand dunes and then making like everything around the vegetation to die. So that's why it's called Deadvlei. Vlei means like marshy land. So when it rains, this whole part down there, it like becomes a lake.
Before you move on, Kip, so your hike was cancelled on the day off, and this was a makeup hike for that. Ended up being a makeup for that.
Yeah. So
the question is, those other two hikes took like 1 year to book. These are the hikes that you did. Did you need permits for that? And how did you go about it? The length of permitting seems to be a problem. So how did you go about this?
for this one, it's easier to go. So it's like in a national park. It's called the Namib National Park. So you go enter the park through Sossusvlei Gate. You pay for the permit then, so you don't have to book in advance. And from Fish River to here, it was like a 2-day drive. Yeah.
A 2-day drive?
2-day drive, yeah.
That's a long drive.
Yeah, it was like, I don't remember the kilometers, probably over maybe 800 kilometers. So we drove, spent the night in one of the, like a random settlement. We come to like with our gear, we cooked our own food, and then now we continue now to the attraction. Maybe I should have been to.
Okay, so the biggest difference with this is that this one has a gate that you can actually meet KWS guys.
Yeah, it's similar to that.
Equivalent, yeah.
Yes, and actually to get to this, the starting point of this dune. Now, at this trip, we had like a Fortuner, but we couldn't drive it there to the starting point of this hike, because nowadays they recommend you having like 4x4 transfers. So there are other like companies. You drive to a car park, then from the car park you all join into this other 4x4 vehicle, and then they take you now to the attraction like Big Daddy Dune. So why do they do that is because lots of people get stuck in that last, I think, like 2 kilometers. And then like doing a rescue is very expensive, so people opt to do the transfers.
And did you know this before going, or were you figuring this out as you were moving?
No, I found it out like on the day.
On the day of? Good stuff.
So everything about like this trip was like spontaneous. It wasn't planned. And then, that's Deadvlei. And then other dune hikes like you can do in Namibia, like if you're into hiking sand dunes. I talked about the Big Daddy Dune. There's like a Big Mama Dune. There's also Dune 45. So the picture here, that's Dune 45. That's like, I think, the most popular sand dune. Most people go and hike like for sunrise, sunset. And I think it's like the most photographed dune. And then there's a Dune 40, Dune, Elim Dune, and Dune 7. So the sand dunes that like are numbered. It's numbered from where, I forget the name of this river. So there are sand dunes along the river. So there's Dune 1 and then Dune 7. So it's like the 7th dune from the river, the 40th dune from the river. Yeah. So it's
Before you move on from that picture, maybe you can tell us what it feels like to hike on that dune. Because it looks like soft core. So I'm imagining, in my mind, it's like you are boots deep in the sand. What does it feel like to actually hike on a dune?
Okay, so I'll talk about like Big Daddy from the base to the summit. It took like 1.5 hours. So actually hiking is quite strenuous because now you're sinking, going up a dune. But honestly, I liked the experience. And then, yeah, your boots or shoes fill up with sand. Some people maybe choose to hike with barefoot, but sometimes gets too hot for barefoot. But yeah, I enjoy the experience hiking.
Scorpions?
I didn't see any scorpions.
Okay.
Yeah. In Fish River Canyon, there are scorpions. Yeah, but maybe we'll see next time. And then after our dune hikes, we went to the Sandwich Harbour, where the desert meets the ocean. Now to go to Sandwich Harbour, it's like a guided tour. So you have to use like a tour company because you can't drive around there with your own car. So for a Sandwich Harbour tour, the experience is around like 4 hours long. And then you drive over the sand dunes, and then at some point you can get to have like, they give you like food. We had like some champagne there, and then yeah, we just had a nice time like in the sand dunes. And then of course they tell like the history about Namibia, the dunes, about the coast. Yeah, trying to remember some, but I don't remember about it. So yeah, Sandwich Harbour, I think this is probably one of the most popular destinations to go. And then it's quite cool to see like where the desert meets the ocean and all. And it's very, very popular. So when you go, you'll see hundreds of 4x4 cars. So yeah, that was us. This was our group that were meant to do Fish River Canyon. That's Wamaida, Asha, and Nina, and then myself. So yeah, so hopefully we'll get to do it like next year. And then coming back to Windhoek, a nice trail that you can do in the city is called Avis Dam. It's an easy 5-kilometer loop and took like 2 hours. It's very beautiful. So yeah, that is my presentation. Okay, so now it's a Q&A. Any questions for me?
Question number 1 from someone in the crowd. What was the night view like? Is it a stargazing destination? Would you say it's a stargazing destination?
In Namibia?
Namibia.
Yeah, for sure. There's this town that we camped in. It's called Sisrim. That was like the clearest like night for stargazing that I saw. So it's beautiful. And we went in June. June is winter. So winter is dry, it's clear. Sometimes it may rain like Fish River Canyon, but it's rare. But yeah, it's good for stargazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want the mic?
Yeah, I came in a bit late, but just wondering, for how long have you been hiking, and what's your motivation?
I started hiking in 2013. Initially, it was like a bucket list item. I just want to do like the highest mountains and everything. But now it's become like a lifestyle. So I generally enjoy it. I want to hike in Kenya. I want to do every single hiking destination that I can. and my motivation is to write guidebooks at the end of it. So, and yeah, and it's a hobby. It's a hobby I actually enjoy. Yeah.
Any other questions in the room? Yeah. There you go. As we are listening to the question, could you go back to the painting slide, the rock paintings?
When you're hiking on the dunes and it gets really hot, do you opt to remove the shoe or bake in the shoe?
It's better to bake in the shoe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think also it depends with the shoes that you have, because I did it and I preferred walking barefoot. At some point I crawled on all fours because it was really steep. Yeah.
So I guess it works either way.
So, besides the black mamba sighting, is there any other thing that's interesting that you saw?
Besides that?
I didn't talk about the black mamba.
Yeah. So I think she's alluding to that. You should have talked about that.
There's another trail that we did. I did mention. Where can I get it? You had something about the rock painting before I move.
We can do that last.
So let me just go to it. So like one of the trails we did, like after the hike was cancelled, I didn't include this. I just wanted my presentation to be brief. It's called the Gondwana Village Trail. And we did a trail like carrying the backpacks that we would have hiked with for Fish River. So, and then what Faith just mentioned, during this hike, we spotted this like long black snake. I don't know if it was like a black mamba or anything, but it was quite scary. And then Wamaida, who spotted it, just started running, didn't even say anything. So I was wondering why she's running. And then after she was safe, far away, she was like, snake, snake. So yeah, that's the story for this one. So yeah, I was hoping they would come for today. Maybe they would have given a story, but yeah. So yeah.
Oh, yeah, so the question from the room was, how sure are we those are 5,000 years old? Or are we just going by the guide, ni guide alikusho?
Ni guide alinisho.
Good enough. And then finally...
But then also, just think about it. There are 50,000 paintings all over the mountain. So that means there's like a civilization on the mountain.
Or 3 kids.
Or 3 kids. And then, and I don't know, maybe they get like pigments of that paint, and then I don't know how they measure it, but yeah, that's what the guide's, that's what he said.
All right, and for anyone else in the room who is taking a look at that recipe, just remember it's just egg yolk, no egg whites, if you want to recruit. Yeah. Any other questions in the room? Yeah, I think you're good.
Good. So.
So a round of applause for Kip and his Namibia expedition.